Hi, I'm Paul Hohen, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh, and today's always our co-host, Chris Bixby and Matt Bingel. How you guys doing?
We're
Doing good. Hello, everybody. How you doing, Jakey?
Doing great as always. Thank you for asking. Chris, what do we have for today?
Very excited for today's guest. He is a director. He currently directs Sesame Street, but before that, he directed its spin-off, The Furchester Hotel. And he's also directed other shows such as the Teletubbies revival, Pajanimals, a whole bunch of other things that we're going to talk about. And here he is, Jack Jameson. Jack, happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me, guys. Nice to see you all.
Yes,
and thanks for making the time difference
Pleasure.
work.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
of course.
Of course. So to kick things off, in your own words, could you kind of introduce yourself a bit and what you do?
Sure. I'm Jack Jameson. I'm a television director, and I specialise in, I guess, kids and family TV, and have done for the last 20 odd years. Starting in the Jim Henson Company, and in about 2000, and working my way through to now, directing Sesame Street and various other shows, but very much in this kids and family space, if you like.
Nice.
Very well. So what was your background like, and how did you grow up?
I grew up with parents in the business, so I grew up in the both my parents were in the theatre. They met in the theatre in the UK at the National Theatre. My father was an actor, my mother was a stage manager. So that kind of, I think, growing up in that environment where you go into the shows a lot. My dad was travelling acting and things like that. And then when I was about 5, my dad became a play school presenter. And for probably your listeners don't know, but Play School was a big show here, certainly in the 70s and the 80s, kids sort of show on TV here. So he was a Play School presenter. Every year we went along and saw him in pantomime, which again, big UK tradition at Christmas. So I guess I grew up in that environment, and it sort of seeps into you, I think, probably in the nicest possible way. And I wanted to be an actor when I was at college. And luckily realised early on that wasn't the best route for me. So started exploring other avenues. And that's kind of where I ended up starting out when I was about 18, 19 applying for jobs as a runner. And it went from there, really.
Nice. Awesome. How did you get into directing?
I was working as a floor assistant. The first show I did in the UK was a show called now I want to get this right because I get the Hoobs, which
Hoobs.
Hoobs.
Yeah.
I was a floor assistant on the Hoobs, and that was when Henson's had a office over here in the UK in Camden, and I applied for a job again as a floor assistant. They said, yeah. Did the interview, went well, come along. I lived in the south of England. It was in Boreham Wood, which was North London or north of London. And I packed up my bags, got my car all filled up. I think I was about 19, 20. Drove up for my first day of work, went in, and everyone in the office sort of looked at me. And the person that hired me was no longer there. So I was like, So I was like, are they going to honour this? And they said, yeah, hang around. And I did. And they said, we'll honour it for 3 months. And I did 3 months, and they said, oh, stay on. And I kind of basically stayed there for a year. Now, in that year, and I was at this time as a floor assistant, I didn't know what I wanted to do. They ran a Henson workshop, puppeteering workshop. And it was a 5-day workshop. And if you did this workshop after you did the first 3 days and you went on and did the other 2 days, and they very kindly said, I could do it. I was about 21, and I'd been assisting. So I'd been doing left and right hands on the show for various times. And I did the first 3 days, And Pete Coogan at the time, who was the exec producer, took me aside when I was there, and he said, "You should think about directing," which I think was his way of saying, "Definitely don't puppeteer," but a very nice way of him saying, "Maybe you should explore other avenues." And that was the first time I really thought, you know what, I do want to explore that. And I left there, went to the BBC, did various other things, prop making and floor assisting. But whilst I was at the BBC, there was an opportunity for a trainee director, and that was on a show called Chucklevision, which if you don't know Chucklevision, it's slapstick comedy. Basically, it's basically two characters like Laurel and Hardy, slapstick. Any situation, they make a hash of it. And I got a trainee director job on that, and I did the first season. I did 2 shows, then I did 4, and then eventually I did the series. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth as a director, really learning the ropes, which was great because they're 2 pros and you don't have to tell them what to do.
Definitely.
So
Absolutely.
you could
Right.
learn everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So now, before directing on Sesame Street, we mentioned in your introduction you directed its UK spin-off, the Furchester Hotel. How'd you begin working on that?
I did. I mean, I go in a way. It goes back to when I did Chucklevision. I was at the BBC at BBC. I think it was just the BBC, and they were making a lot of kids content, and they started to make a show called Nuzzle and Scratch at the time. And the exec producer was Tony Reid, and I knew Tony from Elstree, I think from Henson's, and he got me in to do that. And I think at the time it was like, well, Jack directs and he's worked with puppets before, let's get him to do that, which was great. So I went and did that show, and from that I ended up working on various puppet shows over here in the UK. And I think the main connection for Furchester was Tony Reid, who was like, and he went on to exec Furchester. And by that point, I'd already done Pajanimals and various other things. So obviously, when Furchester came on my radar, I sort of jumped at the opportunity, if you like. Probably chased them for the job, if anything. I was like, let me at it. And they showed me the plans. I mean, when the ambition of the plans, it was up in Manchester, this incredible set. And the catalogue of characters that are going to bring over from Sesame Street that they give you, the Bible of characters from the Muppet Workshop. And I was like, well, I have to get involved in that. There hadn't been anything like it really in the UK as far as puppet, because like Sesame Street hadn't played here since I think the Hoobs was meant to replace Sesame Street in the UK, but there was always a snobbery in the UK towards Sesame Street, weirdly. But they stopped airing it, I think, mid-90s or somewhere around 97, 98, something like that. But everyone was aware of the characters, obviously Elmo and Cookie and things like that. People know the characters, but they didn't know Sesame as well at that point. I did. I grew up with Sesame. It was still on when I was a kid. It was still on. You'd sit and watch it. You'd try and take a day off school so you could watch it. But that went off air, I think, about 98, something like that. Somewhere around then. Yeah.
Definitely.
You can't imagine that, can you? I mean, a world without Sesame Street where they take that off air.
I know,
It's not right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be right.
No, it wouldn't.
No.
Yeah. So I ended up, there was I think it was 2 directors over here, and obviously it was UK crew, mainly UK cast, but obviously they brought over Ryan came over with Elmo, David came over with Cookie, met those guys for the first time, obviously worked with writers and producers from Sesame, and really hit it off. I think for that, I mean, it was about a year, I can't remember how long it was a long time making that show and learning from them the way they do things compared to how we do things over here. Obviously there are differences, but they merge quite quickly, and it was incredible experience, and a show I'm very proud of.
Definitely.
Awesome. So, do you have any favorite episodes you directed for the Furchester Hotel?
I think, I think for me, one I can't remember the names of them. I think there was one about counting chickens, and I think the thing I loved about that was the fact that they were Muppet chickens. Now, as a kid growing up, it was always the chickens that came into a scene, was like, bring any scene alive with a load of chickens. So when the Wranglers brought out these chickens, I kind of freaked out. I was like, that is too good. So yeah, I think it was Elmer going around counting chickens, and I'd just try and get a chicken in every shot, essentially, from that moment on, because I was like, yeah, Muppet chickens, nothing better than that. That probably, and there was one about don't eat the guests, which was a Cookie character coming to stay, and Cookie Monster obviously wanting to eat it. So I think just the setup on that, anything with Cookie is I love.
Definitely. And talk about the Furchester Hotel. We actually previously interviewed Louise Gold.
Ah, fantastic, Louise. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was
And why
She's incredible. She's incredible. I remember meeting her for the first time, on Furchester, and she basically, that character was her. She brought that character to life so brilliantly. She was great fun. They were great fun, great cast.
Yeah, and Ryan Dillon, he's a previous guest too. We interviewed him.
And I had to thank Ryan really a lot. He was very integral to getting me over to the States onto Sesame Street. I think working with Ryan, working with David, I think having a good working relationship with them definitely helped me make that transition over to Sesame Street itself, without a doubt.
Definitely.
They didn't go, oh no, don't go near him. They were very kind. So I think that's probably yeah. So it was probably it.
So speaking of Sesame Street, what was the transition like moving from the Furchester Hotel to Sesame Street?
I try to think it was quite a while after the Furchester. And I think that it happened. And it was, I think that Dion, who was one of the execs on the Furchester, she was back at Sesame Street. And the BBC had contacted me and said, look, we're doing another season of Sesame. Would you like to come and do it? But the thing about it, and it sounds mad, but that was filmed in Manchester, and I live in Brighton, which is like 5-6 hours away. And we just had our first child, and they were like, could you come and do it? And I said, I'd love to do it, but I've committed. I've got a newborn baby. I'm staying at home. I can't go away for 8 months, And then Dion phoned me and said, is there anything we can do? Is it, we'd love you to do it. And I said, look, quite honestly, it's because I've got a baby and I really don't want to travel for 8 months away, And then she said, what if you did Sesame Street in New York? I said, right, that's fine. I'll leave the baby. I'm coming. So it was like, it was a very easy decision. No, it was, she was the first one that sort of raised it. And we talked about it for a while, and obviously excited me, the prospect. And then it all went quiet, I think. So I remember it like this, whether this is totally true. They were talking about it, all went quiet. So I booked a flight to New York. My wife said, you just got to go out. So I booked a cheap flight and went out. And I think and then sent a casual email saying, I just so happened to be in New York in these dates, which were the exact date, I'd obviously flown myself out, and went and met everyone on set and started having those discussions. And then it became a reality. And I think for anyone, when you first step onto that set, it's mind-blowing. It's kind of overwhelming. It's like, yeah. There's nothing like it. Shows don't exist like it. Studios don't run in that way anymore, So I think from a nostalgia point of view, it has a sense of nostalgia. I think even if you didn't know, if you'd never knew Sesame Street or never understood Sesame Street, but you stood on that set, I think you'd have a sense of nostalgia and the feeling that something special's happening there. And you can't put your finger on it. And that's a really weird but amazing thing. And I think that's probably how I describe that first sort of feeling of being on that set, if you like. And then when it came the transition to actually working, was probably, it went through sort of peaks and troughs of fear, elation, disbelief, and then once I was actually up and running, just pure adrenaline and enjoyment, if you like. I think it's an amazing place to work. People are, hugely giving and open and all of that. So that obviously helps. So yeah, and
Definitely.
weird experience to, transition into.
Right.
Yeah. So before getting to work on it, what was your familiarity with Sesame?
Well, I grew up with it. So I grew up, it was a show that I watched regularly. It was on for an hour every morning, weekday morning. So I'd watch it. This is before I went to school. So I was at preschool at that point, and I would watch it. So character-wise were familiar. Look, Bert and Ernie for me growing up, hilarious. My stepfather as well grew up in San Francisco, so he used to bring us back little hand puppets and things like that of Bert and Ernie and Grover, and so we had that sort of connection as kids, if you like. So I grew up watching it, had that connection with the characters, but then, as I said, it went off air, and so I didn't know all the newer characters, if you like. So there's a lot of characters that I wasn't aware of. For me, it was definitely Bert and Ernie, the Count, Big Bird, Snuffy, those classic core characters from 30, 35 years ago when I watched it, So I mean, obviously, I watched a lot of YouTube,
Yeah.
Once I was like, well, once you sort of promise you can do something, then you watch a lot, and get familiar quickly, if you like. So that was probably the main thing, But yeah, I think for me, like Bert and Ernie, I think that was, as I said about like Bert and Ernie, for me were like, then I was starstruck when I met them. Who wouldn't be?
Right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be?
Who wouldn't be? So, and when I go out there, when I was doing Sesame, as I said, joking aside, I said, oh, I can't be away from my family yet. Went to New York. I only go out for a week at a time. So if I'm doing, the maximum I've done is like 3 weeks at a time, probably. So it's not huge length of time that I'm away, And my son at the time, my eldest, was really small, and he used to just send video voice messages to Elmo, and Elmo would respond, and record messages back. I mean, that's like, not many kids get that.
No, yeah.
That was incredible. You'd be on set, you go, right, I'd say to Ryan, can you do a message for Ray? And he'd like, but being my son was 2 or something at the time, we'd just ask Elmo, like, what have you had for breakfast? And they'd discuss porridge. That was it. It was great.
That's great.
It was great. Yeah. Big insights,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really big insights.
Yeah.
So, similarity, are there any favorite episodes you directed for Sesame?
I think favorite episode wise, probably Four Seasons, because it was the first one I did, and it was a big challenge, and that was Grover changing the seasons by sneezing. So we went through every season in one episode, and those street stories, I think they were 10 or 11 minutes long, are filmed in one day. So we had the whole street changing from fall to snow dumps to spring, all the way through the episode. So I think that for me, probably, and again, Grover being a core character that I remember so well, as a kid.
I know, yeah, and you get to direct him now.
You get to direct him.
Exactly. I mean, ask Grover to do something is amazing,
Absolutely. So who are some of your favorite characters to direct?
I think, as I said, I mean, from a directing point of view, I think, for me, Cookie, as soon as I go on set, I see Cookie, I laugh, right? I think that the simplicity, and I mean this in a good way, of that character and his want is just genius. I think another one, Bert and Ernie, when I think I had a sort of out-of-body experience watching the first time I had to do, they were like, oh, we need to re-record Rubber Ducky. And I directed Rubber Ducky. And I didn't really direct it. I just said, "There's the camera," and then just sat back and watched as they did Rubber Ducky. And that for me again was a bit that took me back to being 4 years old, sat cross-legged on the floor watching Bert and Ernie. So I think there was a definite thing there. I think one thing. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I love directing them all, and I mean that in the sense that all the performers give so much, and they all give different things. And when you're on this floor, it's very, very playful. So everyone brings their A game. Everyone brings another idea. Everyone brings something to the party. And the best things probably are when you've got lots of performers, right? And everyone's coming at you with like, why did we do this? Why did we do that? And it's all that's doing is layering it up, making it better and better all the time, if you like. So I like those things, and I like watching how people get their enjoyment out of it. I mean, someone who does that Leslie brilliantly is Abby. I remember working with her for the first time, and I'd never, and working with her for the first time, and she's like, yeah, but we could do it like, and just layering up all the time. And I think that's the enjoyment for me,
Definitely, yeah. Leslie's a previous guest of ours. Absolutely love her.
Yes.
Amazing. But I said to myself, I won't name anyone because I'd have to go through everyone.
Yeah.
I'd have to go through all of them. The question is are there any Muppets you don't like directing? No. That's as simple as that. None of them. Are there any characters? No, none of them. Oh, you know who I like to try and get in shot? Two-headed all the time. Always want two-headed in the back. Again,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two-headed
when
monster,
I get characters that just make me laugh. Right?
Absolutely. Two-headed monster is a really funny character.
Yes.
Two-headed. Ryan is my and here's the thing, is my Sesame oracle. So like if I don't know a character or I've missed a few seasons, he can help me out. Yeah. He's like, and that's really good. That's really good. Especially when doing something like the 50th or something like that. He's there going, yeah, but they did this. And that I love that. I love that knowledge.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So through Sesame Street, you had a chance to direct some of their specials, one being When You Wish Upon a Pickle. What was it like working on that?
I mean, amazing. I mean, that was amazing in the sense that to be asked to do a special, for Sesame. I love that because usually with a street story, you're in for a day and then you're out and onto the next street story. With that, I think we were in the studio 5 days, something like that, 5 or 6 days. I can't quite remember, but that was great because it felt like we were really making something, to have a longer narrative. I think it was about 45 to an hour long, a longer narrative, and be able to spend some more time on it, if you like, was great. And slightly off curriculum as well, which was good. So it's not the same curriculum for the specials. That there's a slightly different audience. I could be wrong on that, but it felt like there was a slightly different audience. I think probably people do tune into those specials for a little bit more nostalgia, especially the 50th. But yeah, When You Wish Upon a Pickle was Amanda Seyfried, amazing, Blake Lively, all these people coming on was just like, wow. So yeah, extraordinary experience,
Definitely.
I felt very, very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Nice.
Terrific. So going back, you also got to direct the big 50th anniversary special, Sesame Street's 50th anniversary celebration.
Yeah.
What was it like getting to direct a special celebrating such a huge milestone?
Well, I mean, it felt like a huge responsibility, and I didn't take it lightly. I mean that. I mean, it was like, that's you're holding people's memories, and in your hand, and it felt like it needed to be treated respectfully and carefully, and hopefully I did my due diligence with as I said, people like Ryan as well at those points really helped me out. And one thing I did at that point was hopefully listen to what others were trying to bring to it, to sort of navigate our way through it. I mean, look, it was a great script, it was a great story as well. So that helped. But the nice thing about it was there were some great breakout moments, of just some great music numbers. I mean, we had all the past presenters coming back, all the past humans coming back. I mean, that's crazy, all sat all around a piano singing. So a lot of what I had to do was stand back and let people get to see each other for the first time in a few years. So that was really nice as well. It was very emotional at times as well, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and then the set closed down. Oh, that was right. And the posters went up because Kermit was there, and I'd never experienced that. There was a first directing Kermit, and suddenly the sort of mood on the set changed as Kermit arrived, and that was great. You know,
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
you always know there's a big guest because exec producers come down, you know, and you've got Kermit. That was a great moment.
Yeah.
I know,
Oh,
yeah, because Kermit hadn't been on Sesame Street for years, so I'm
A
really,
long time,
really happy that
probably.
they brought him back for that.
It was
Oh,
fantastic
yeah.
and a great song to do as well. You know.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
classic song,
Mm.
classic song.
And that was a really, yeah, it was a really special moment. And I think also a lot of my memories of that show are actually sitting back and watching the reaction of everyone else, if you like.
Mhm.
And those were the really cool things. Watching people watch Patti LaBelle, you know, there's an
Right.
amazing thing. Watching these things just take place in front of you, you know, you suddenly got you got Whoopi Goldberg on set again, and people are having a lot of the performers and the crew, you know, are probably going back 30, 40 years when they last had this moment, you know, and that was really special.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
So yeah, so I think, yeah, amazing thing to do, you know.
Oh yes, it's amazing, special.
Yes.
And hopefully we got I think we got a great result, you know.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Yes.
And Joseph Gordon-Levitt was he was a riot. I mean, he was with us I think for 2 or 3 days, and he brought his kids down, and they had a great few days as well. He brought so much to that show, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, hugely respectful of the performers and the Muppets, and you know, all of that.
Definitely.
So great.
So do you have any favorite celebrity guests you've got to direct on the show?
That's really difficult. My wife always jokes that I don't know who anyone is. So when I first started directing, it was always in a production meeting. I'd always hope that someone would email me with who the celebrity is going to be, so that I could Google them quickly, because otherwise I had to look really pleased and then Google them whilst talking to someone on Zoom. So like my wife was like, "Who have you got?" And I was like, "John Legend." And she was like, "John Legend?" And I was like, "Yeah, what does he do?" I was like, "Whoa." Obviously I Googled him and knew him straight away. But like, I think he was the first celebrity I directed. He was incredible, you know. He just walked on, sat with the grand piano and sang with Elmo. I think he did like 3 takes perfectly. And there it was. And I was like, right, there's the magic of Sesame, really.
Of course.
I think often it's quite funny. I quite like it when there's UK guests, just because obviously being British on set and having the accent, I'm the only one. And then there'll be there'll be a British celebrity. Like, so when we did Elvis Costello for the 50th, and obviously there's a sort of, you know, they're 2 Brits, they come together, and then I sort of stood there awkwardly for 20 minutes trying to talk about football because I know nothing about football, but he's a massive football fan. So you kind of end up in these sort of weird situations where you're like, so I think, God, yeah, Elvis Costello, Elvis Costello was amazing. John Legend, I think, again, first celebrity guest. So for me, you know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like working with that was an amazing thing, because that was more than just a celebrity spot. That was like a show. Him and Amanda were like, we spent a few days together doing a whole show. So that was really nice. You know, I don't even think of that as that sort of celebrity thing, if you like.
Definitely.
But yeah, very lucky to work with these sort of having, you know, had quite a few people to work with that you admire, and then there you are. And they're different. I think working with them on Sesame Street is interesting, because they're often completely in awe. I'm sure you've heard this before. Completely in awe themselves and having the best day of their life.
Yes.
You know. So it's often it's often like an ambition of theirs to actually do it themselves. So you feel like you're helping them as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. So over the years, you've won several awards for your directing work on Sesame Street. How does that feel? You know, I don't.
Wow.
I don't.
Wow, awful. No. We look, it's obviously it's a amazing thing to get, and I, you know, and I share those awards with the entire team. You know, that's what those are, I think. And I think any award and any kind of it's always nice. Of course it feels good, but at the same time you go, look, you don't do any of this alone. You do it with a huge team behind you. You know, it's those performers getting up every day and doing what they do and bringing to it. It's that crew. It's people getting behind the show and the love behind it. That's what creates those things, you know. So that's what I mean, to be honest, yeah, I'm proud of the awards, and if they get me a few extra jobs, woohoo. And you know, hopefully the kids can take them and go and brag to all the other kids at school. That's brilliant. They're ready for other people to do that. That's perfect. But I think, no, of course, I'm massively proud of it, you know. But you know, they are. I've got it there. Look, I'm very proud. It's behind me. You know.
Look at that.
That's an Emmy right there. Because I
Oh,
like to just put it subtly in the back of my Zoom video so that people may just notice it. Yeah, but then you didn't have to point it out. So yeah, no, they mean they. Of course they mean it. No, they mean a lot. And I think when we got the 50th, we got a DGA award, Directors Guild Award for the 50th.
oh, nice.
That obviously meant a huge amount, because went to LA to collect the award, and we won it, which was extraordinary. But again, the thing that kept coming back was, you know, this is a room full of A-list celebrities and amazing directors and producers and all these people from the industry. What an icebreaker. Straight away they come up to you and tell you all their favorite Sesame moments, talk about Sesame Street, all of that kind of stuff. And it just sort of opened that, you know, knock down barriers. It was really nice. So that's what it's about, you know. I think people were, you know, definitely voting for the show. So that's lovely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So you also directed another Sesame spinoff, the Not Too Late Show with Elmo, in its first season. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes. Yeah, I mean that I thought, as soon as I was told the concept of that, I was like, oh, that's too good. You know, that's too good. And I'm trying to think when we did, God, I think that was just before lockdown. So my mind goes fuzzy back then. But it was I mean, we had great set, loads of brilliant guests. Lil Nas coming on dressed
Oh,
in
Yes.
plastic was just genius. It had a different vibe. It had a really good vibe to it. It had a different vibe. It still had the curriculum. It still had the Sesame vibe, but it had sort of this unique sort of energy to it. You know, maybe a bit more irreverent. It was very fun. It was very funny. Yeah, Lil Nas in his like doing in his what do you call it? But you know, like it was like packing plastic. It was brilliant. And that was right. We had Jonathan Van Ness was on, and I didn't get to direct him, but as directors we were kind of like in on similar days. I might be doing something in the afternoon, I think, with the other director in the morning, and I just went around trying to get photos with Jonathan Van Ness to show my wife. So I had a great time.
Definitely. Yeah, there are a lot of good celebrity guests on that show. Like the Jonas Brothers were on.
Oh yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Jonas Brothers are on. Because I
I
was a
didn't get
huge
to-
fan of the Jonas Brothers growing up.
Yeah, I didn't get to direct them. I was annoyed. So I was like, but I think with that show, it was like I just hang around and try and meet people and see what's going on, you know. And it was the house band as well, wasn't it? There was the house band in that, which were brilliant. You know, it had quite a Muppety vibe, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, that was I think that was my last trip out before lockdown,
Mm,
and then it all went quiet for 18 months, something like that. It was something like that, or a year. I can't remember.
yeah, definitely.
So moving on from Sesame, you've also directed another puppetry show, Pajanimals. What was that like?
Pajanimals, brilliant. Yes, that was the first show I'd done for the Jim Henson Company, for Henson's, since I'd worked with them as a floor assistant. So that meant a lot, going back to do that, sort of returning to Henson's, if you like, as a director, not a floor assistant, and definitely not as a puppeteer. So that was a big deal for me. That was shot in Belfast in Northern Ireland.
Oh wow!
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, in a warehouse in Northern Ireland. And I can't remember how many we made. It was a lot, because I think I'd made a show out in Northern Ireland called Big and Small, which was again a puppet show, Canadian based, I think, puppet show. We'd done that in Belfast, and then Pajanimals came in, and I think I rolled from one into the next. So I was in Belfast for about 2 years, I think, on and off on these puppet shows. And Pajanimals was brilliant. We had it was Victor Yerrid came over, Donna Kimball from both Donna and Victor came over and joined the UK puppeteers over here. And that was a great show. That was a lot of fun because we were starting it up. We had a lot of freedom to do what we wanted to do with it, as far as the different lands, the different characters. The performers that we had there played all the different performers. So we had a blast. I think we basically just ran riot for a year or whatever it was on set. It was great. But in Belfast, making an American show, it was kind of, I'm trying to think, did they do it? I can't remember if it was American accents or not, if the characters are American or they.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
They were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they were, and there's something kind of funny about when you do it, and there's not huge differences, but there are differences,
right.
And I know that certainly the holidays that are celebrated, and there's certain things that are different, and we were doing that in Belfast. There's something, I don't know, it was kind of fun,
Definitely.
Yeah, Pajanimals, it's an amazing show. I remember growing up.
Yes.
Same.
Did you grow up with Pajanimals? No, you didn't grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was on.
Yeah.
It was on Sprout in the US.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, because Sprout was I'm trying to think who. Yeah, because Sprout they started on that. That went to Sprout. I'd forgotten that was Sprout, because that was NBC, wasn't it? Or they bought Sprout. Yeah, and that was yeah. I remember. And Hugh Martin was the other director on that. So it was myself and Hugh Martin. And he was American director. So he came over to do Pajanimals. And we, at the weekends, just went and explored the north coast of Ireland. It was brilliant.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All the Pajanimals drank Guinness. It was like, it was a brilliant thing to do, But, there was a lot of, it was a really lovely crew, and there was a lot of love for that show, and it was nice that I think it got 2 seasons. It was really nice that it went away for a bit. We had a rest and we came back and everyone was back together. And I think all the crew, I can't remember, I think pretty much 95% of the crew came back, which is great.
Nice. You also directed another Sprout show, the Chica Show. What was that like?
Yeah, so that came from doing Pajanimals with Hugh Martin, as I said, was the other director. And he did Chica, and that was shot in Philadelphia and in just outside Philly. And they asked me to go over and do that. I'm trying to think, to 2013, I think, somewhere around there. And that was the first show I'd done in the States. So I went over to do that for the first time. And that was, extraordinary. Like, studio just outside Philly, Chica Show, shot like a sitcom, 3 cameras, chicken character and humans as well. And again, great fun, John Kennedy was on that, who is one of the.
He's one of our previous guests too. Yeah.
John. Yeah. So I met John for the first time on that. In fact, then my wife came. This is 2012, so long before Sesame Street, and we actually ended up doing a little tour up the coast. We visited Sesame Street, and John Kennedy said to me, he said, "You got to go and introduce yourself. Go and introduce yourself." I can't, and I didn't. But it was really nice being on Sesame. That was the first time I've been on the street, and my wife and I met people, for the first time, but as guests. So, which is quite nice to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting that John Kennedy was actually the Apollo for the short series for Pajanimals.
Yes, and we've discussed this. It was always a shame for him, obviously, because we've discussed it. When I met Johnny, I didn't know that, and he was like, "Yeah, because they made the shorts, didn't they, originally?"
Yeah.
Series, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Mike Windsor became Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So another iconic children's series you directed was the Teletubbies revival. Can you talk about what it's like, directing a continuation of such a popular kids show?
It's that sort of, you want to change it, but not too much.
Right.
Protect all the right bits, if you like, or hope to protect all the right bits. And that was very much, they wanted to maintain the kind of tactile nature of the Teletubbies, if you like, that appeal that they have, but to modernize it. So we ended up shooting it on a blue screen with plate shots from a model and bringing those two things together. So you kind of gave it a new look, if you like. But yeah, I think for me it was kind of mad to direct Teletubbies, because I had to watch a lot of Teletubbies. Obviously, anyone I meet goes, "Well, what did you say to a Teletubby? They just run around, don't they?" And how do you write for a Teletubby? They just, you don't need to write a script, do you? It's amazing how much work goes into directing and writing about a Teletubby, I can tell you. But yeah, I think it was protecting it as a brand, I would say, as characters, and you are messing with people's nostalgia, or what people think they remember. But I think the majority of it was successful. I think it was updated enough. I definitely had parents say they'd grown up on Teletubbies and they were now watching it and they didn't know the difference. I mean, I don't think people, it was similar enough that people just went, "Oh, we're still watching the Teletubbies." Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I think it was on the right level, if you like.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think it's that kind of treating anything with respect and going, you've got to look after it for the right people, if you like. But you have got an entirely new audience. So you need to.
Right.
It is that audience is refreshed every 2 years. So they need to, you can get away with a lot.
Right.
But that was, I think we did 100 episodes or something like that. I remember it because my first child was born and I was deliriously tired, and getting onto set surrounded by 7-foot Teletubbies on a blue background was kind of like enough to wake you up every morning. I've got photos of my son as a baby in my arms on the set of Teletubbies, and his face is just like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" They're huge.
They are, yeah.
They're huge.
They're huge. And I directed it, and it still surprises me that
I know I've seen photos of behind the scenes photos of the original iteration of the Teletubbies, and oh my gosh, like Tinky Winky, the purple one, he's like 10 feet tall. Almost,
yeah. And they've got really bad. They're not great at seeing where they're going as well. So they're kind of like at speed, quite dangerous. There was a lot of and I'd have a mic so I could talk directly into their ear. So a lot of the directing was basically talking directly into their ear, and you'd go, "Right, turn," I'd try and count them. I'm trying to think back. Oh no, I'd be like, the trumpet that comes up and things like that. I'd do that voice. Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
I would be the narrator to them, and they'd sort of respond at me to camera, and I'd be looking at the monitor and narrating to the Teletubbies. What a brilliant job! And you could basically say anything, and they'd do it. It was great. Okay, and they'd follow each other, but you had to also remember to tell them to stop, because you've got 4 very heavy 7-foot things with lots of animatronics in their head bumping into stuff.
Right.
I didn't always remember. Yeah. And then and we did update it, because we built a Teletubby playground, which was like a big slide that went into a ball pit and a seesaw, and they went on a trampoline and flew up in the air and things. But what was great is even though it was all blue screen, we did actually build those things. So we did have a massive slide, and the balls were like, I don't know, like massive beach balls. So yeah, just before the Teletubbies would come in, I'd go down the slide. It was brilliant.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Definitely.
Oh, that's great. So you also directed some other shows for CBeebies, such as Topsy and Tim and Waffle the Wonder Dog.
Yeah.
Now, for our American viewers, would you kind of firstly describe what CBeebies is, and then could you talk about those shows that you did?
Sure. So the BBC has 2 channels, CBeebies and CBBC, and they are 2 channels that basically cater for 2 age groups. And CBeebies is your preschool, and I think that is 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 0 to 6, something around there. The lines get a little blurred, but generally preschool. So they're aimed at a younger audience on that channel, and it's free to view. So it's probably, don't quote me, but probably one of the most viewed kids channels over here. It's also seen as a very safe place to put your kids in front of, if you like. So there's no commercial breaks. The content is very much sort of regulated. So it's a good place to put your kids in front of, and you can be happy. And Topsy and Tim, they're both Topsy and Tim and Waffle, both made by Darryl McQueen, brilliant company that I've done lots of work for, including the remake of Teletubbies, and more recently, Lovely Little Farm for Apple TV. They made all of those shows, and Topsy and Tim and Waffle are both live action shows. So no puppets, all people, all humans walking around. And Topsy and Tim was the first sort of preschool drama, if you like. So there was a narrative arc as well as an episodic arc. The problems for a preschooler is probably not your sort of things you get in EastEnders, but like, I don't know, I can't remember what the things were, like, mummy's not letting us I don't know, I didn't win the games at the party, so they're big world problems for that age group, if you like. And these were really young kids that we were filming with. And then Waffle the Wonder Dog it follows a family, and they adopt a dog that moves in with them that talks. So yeah. So I guess there was a bit of so filming real dogs there, which was good fun.
wow.
Nice. So I vaguely remember watching Topsy and Tim because that aired on Sprout for a little bit over here too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it did. And it was like, again, I think it's one of those shows that people remember. It was very much, it felt very much like you were in the action. It was completely child centric. We followed those kids. We didn't rehearse them. Really, we'd work the narrative, and they took you where they wanted to go, if you like, with some limitations. But the idea was that from a child's perspective, you were very much experiencing it from that perspective, and it kind of worked in that sense, if you like.
Yeah.
So what would you like to say to those who have been supported the projects you worked on over the years?
A massive thank you. I mean, look, to put your trust in me is the main thing that I appreciate, obviously. I think also any career you don't get through without the kindness of others, and I mean that in opening up opportunities, having the faith to go, you know what, we'll give him a go on it. He seems to be the person to tell a 7-foot Teletubby what to do. Someone has had to make that decision.
Yeah.
and I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a thank
Definitely.
you, you know,
Of
because it's a strange old path that we, you know, you end up taking, isn't it? And a story that you end up a part of. But I wouldn't have it any other way, and that is down to the people that go, you know what, I think he should have a go at that.
Well,
So thank you.
definitely. So if people would like to connect with you, where can people find you?
That is a good question, because I'm rubbish at doing social. I do have a what's the Instagram? I do have an Instagram. For some reason, I've become corporate and I like LinkedIn. Is that really bad? Quite like LinkedIn.
No,
Yeah, that's
not at
fine.
all. Not at
Quite
all.
like
Perfect
I do LinkedIn. I've got a website, but it's just a holding page, so it's not very communicative, because you just send an email. You send an email, but I quite like. I've got Instagram and I like LinkedIn, and I like
Nice.
giving people thumbs up on LinkedIn. That's why. Those are the only social sort of places I go, probably. You know,
Nice.
because
Nice.
I don't have the staying power for any of the other stuff.
Right, yeah, I could understand that. I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
So since we're about to wrap up, the last question that Matt's about to ask is the question that we ask all of our guests at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So of course this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of? Or in your own words, how would you define the word nostalgia?
Wow, that's a good but tricky question. Because I was trying to think, you know, when I was last nostalgic, when did I last have that sense of nostalgia? And it probably goes back to that moment on Sesame Street, the first time I was directing on the street. Every time I go there, I feel nostalgic, and I don't know why. I think maybe it's a sense of safety. It's a feeling of safety and comfort. And I think nostalgia is, for me, safety, comfort, risk-free. There's something kind of, yeah, safe about it, you know. And I think you feel, you know, you feel settled in that place, and that's probably nostalgia, and that's probably why we like it. For me, it takes you back to those places that you feel most at ease, no vulnerability, and I think that's probably where I'd put my feelings of nostalgia. And the things that trigger it for me is always smell, without a doubt. It's always a smell that gets me, and for me, walking onto the street, walking into Kaufman Studios where we film Sesame Street, it's that coffee mixed with, I don't know, puppet fur or something. The two things come together when I walk into that studio, and I go, right, I know where I am, and I feel very at ease there. I feel very comfortable there. So I think nostalgia for me is, yeah, a feeling of safety.
Definitely.
Yours
Your
and
words and,
your
yeah.
social media will be in the description down below, so people can reach and follow you.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
that'd
Definitely.
be
So
great.
Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is really fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much for doing it, and thank you so much, you know, for what you've done to be a part of our lives, and keep up the great work and you know, and cannot wait for what's next in store for you.
Jake, Chris, Matt, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for getting me on.
Of course.
Absolutely.
It's
And
been a pleasure.
keep in touch, and I'll email you when this goes up.
I'd appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna become more social on the media, and then I can follow you guys as well.
Oh, nice.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
No, thank you guys. All the best.
All right,
Thank
enjoy
you,
the
you
rest of your
too.
day, Jack.
You too, guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Yes,
You
you
too.
too.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Oh, hang on. I just turned my camera off.
There you go. That's goodbye from us as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. We have absolutely enjoyed our time with Jack Jameson. Very, very cool. Really great. Stay tuned for more interviews coming up. We do have a lot of really good ones coming up.
Oh, yeah.
I will say our next episode is going to be really good. So please stay tuned for that and future episodes to come. Get notifications if you're on the video version. Subscribe to our YouTube page if you're on audio. Follow us, or if you want to go watch, or if you're gonna want to go watch the video version, that's fine too, because it's the same thing, but just with our adorable faces. Anyway,
Yes, and when people show stuff too, it's always good to
oh
check
yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah.
video version.
Like Jack's Emmy in the background, you'll see that. and
Mhm.
a whole bunch of other stuff. But until next time, thank you folks for joining us. This concludes another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. We episode enjoyed our time with Jack Jameson. And until next time, Jakey, take us out. What do we say?
Keep nostalgia alive.
No, thanks for joining us. Keep nostalgia alive. See you next time, folks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.